location in Rio, and we've got that show coming up, which is going to be on, you're going to be hanging with us next week, Headbangers Ball. Not only is Judas Priest on the show, I mean, we're talking some talent. Queensryche, Megadeth, Guns N' Roses.
This Brazilian band called
Sepultura. Great band.
Yeah.
There's another Brazilian band that, I'm sorry, I don't remember the name of them. But Sepultura, I've heard, and they're good. Does it seem like there's a good rock and roll scene out here in Brazil?
Yeah, I mean, as I said earlier on, this is the first trip that Priest has had the opportunity to make to this part of the country, but we've been thrilled to see the amount of fans at the hotel, and, you know, people with albums from the whole Priest catalogue of 14 albums, and the other portions of the South American media too. I did an ID for an Amazon jungle radio station, so I mean, this is how far we're reaching down here. So, you know, it's fantastic, and it's not just for Priest, of course. Metal is very, very strong and very powerful in South America. So that's what's going to be so pumped up about this day on the show.
It's very interesting, really, because you get a lot of bands out here and you never get to hear of them because they sing in Spanish.
Yeah.
And we live in Spain. Aggressive person. Out of the year. And
you hold the knife to prove the point.
Yeah, it's just there are a lot of bands that you just never get to hear of because they sing in different language, but they're very good bands. And it's a shame, really, because there's a lot of talent. They've got a slightly different angle to metal because, you know, the lack of influence. It's a shame they never get across. A little bit like us, really.
Yes, we don't seem to be stretched, do we?
Don't seem to get across.
I want to ask real quick a question about the show. I don't know what the rules are in Brazil, but the Judas Priest show is definitely a show with a lot of pyrotechnics and a lot of excitement. Certain countries, you're not allowed to use pyrotechnics, are you?
Well, I think it depends on the circumstances. You know, some people are paranoid about even the word heavy metal. So when you put heavy metal and pyrotechnic together, I think this is it, you know. Atom Bomb Revisited.
Fire and gasoline.
But I mean, fortunately, the South Americans do like things to go off with a bang, a big bang. As you know from their annual carnival in Rio, it's very uninhibited, very risque, and they just like to go for a big time, you know.
It's wild here.
So we're set to let off about 150 pounds of gel ignite, and plastic explosive, and bottle rockets, and you name it. We've got it. We've just bought out the local firework department in Rio. There's a big warehouse, and we just spent a few $1,000s on things that are going to blow up, you know.
So we're going to be able to hang with you guys at the show and take everybody else with you?
Sure, we insist, sure.
Oh, okay, well, there you go. So for those of you, don't forget, next week, the Headbangers Ball is going to be at the, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, is it called the Maracanã Stadium?
Maracana.
It's very good.
I'm like, at the Maracanã Stadium, okay? That Maracanã Stadium, like about 180,000 crazy people.
Arriba.
These guys play, Judas Priest and Queensryche and Megadeth and
Guns N' Roses, Sepultura, and a bunch of
everybody band that I forgot the name. So
the best night, definitely the best night.
excuse me. Well, that was it, and I want to thank you guys for wine and dining with it at this luxurious establishment. They're probably going to throw us out so they can let the real customers
Is MTV going to buy us a meal now?
This is really Philadelphia, folks. Just a backdrop.
Thanks a lot.
Just a backdrop.
Thanks a lot. We'll see you guys later.
Thank you. Every word, I was singing along, it was awesome.
That was great. I mean, we tried to do some interviews back here during some of your last two songs, and we couldn't because everybody was screaming so loud when the pyro wasn't going off.
Is that right? Well, there you go.
That's good, though.
That's great. I mean, that just goes to show you how intense they are down here in Rio. I mean, intense heavy metal maniacs.
Definitely. We'll talk some more to Rob Halford as Headbangers Ball continues from Rock in Rio #2 in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. Backstage at Rock in Rio 2, I'm Ricky Rackman. Headbangers Ball is in Brazil, and I'm with Rob Halford of Judas Priest. So other than the show, which definitely went great here.
Yeah, it was incredible, fantastic reaction.
What else have you been doing in Brazil, in Rio?
I've been interviewed to death by the Brazilian media who, because Priest has never been down here before, want to know everything about the band, where we were born, what school we went to, what kind of food we eat, you know, what do we drink, and all that kind of stuff. So I've just been really spreading the gospel of the Priest and talking to as many people as possible, trying to meet the fans, but as you know, the hotel is somewhat besieged most days, and they're just so intense, they're just so into Priest and metal down here, it's just crazy, you know. But all in all, just, you know, hanging out and meeting the people and having a great time.
Now, was the show what you expected?
It was more than I anticipated because, like I say, when you come to a place for the first time, you don't know how the people are going to react to you. But they just got down with the band and just grooved and moshed and did all the metal things they do everywhere else in the world. It was the best. It was cool.
Well, I want to thank you for hanging out with us also last week. And I'm sure we'll be running into you again. We always seem to run into each other.
Man. We'll get together in Phoenix.
Probably. Yeah. From Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, stay tuned. Headbangers Ball continues.
It's called Operation Rock and Roll, modestly enough, and stars Judas Priest, Alice Cooper, Motorhead, Dangerous Toys, and Metal Church. And it'll probably look something like this.
It's something of an historical event as much as anything else. You know, to see this kind of heavy metal rock and roll lineup is very, very unique.
Capitalizing on the patriotism left over from Operation Desert Storm, Operation Rock and Roll is about to invade. Headliners Judas Priest and Alice Cooper are touring with Motorhead and new bands Dangerous Toys and Metal Church. Judas Priest Rob Halford already has his own interpretations of what went on in the Gulf.
We just think that it's a great name for a tour, and this is going to be a bit like someone said earlier today, a bit like a desert storm rolling into a town and giving people a great time and moving on, you know.
Somebody said it was the mother of all earaches, which is a great idea.
This package tour features mostly outdoor venues, and at each show, cassettes of the band's records will be given away. And this package tour isn't too worried about ticket scalping either.
I promise not to scalp anybody.
Cooper says the competition between bands will only force them to play their best every night.
Any band goes up there every night trying to blow the other bands away. That's the nature of the beast, you know. But I think it's a very friendly kind of thing.
The recession is a good thing when it comes to this. You know, a lot of people are skirting the idea that it's a recession out there. It's the best thing in the world for the audience because they get to see two headliners instead of one. It breaks the mold. I think the good thing about it is that it breaks the mold.
It's good for a band like us. We get a lot of exposure playing in a bigger place with Judas Priest and Alice Cooper.
I would have gone to it if I was a kid like that. Sure.
Yeah, it's really good for us to be on the bill, too. We're really enjoying ourselves.
The Operation Rock and Roll Tour is certainly one time when you don't want to forget your earplugs. They proudly play at an ear-bashing 98 decibels. Even though there are 5 bands on the bill and 5 sets for them to play on, no one's cutting any corners on their stage show.
We've always tried to keep our ticket prices down and give as big a production as we can actually afford to give them.
Although guitar hero Joe Satriani had a blast jamming with Cooper at a show in Mountain View, California, most folks who dare to join Cooper on stage won't be having nearly as much fun.
This year, no guillotine this year, no hanging, because we've done that so much. And so the Feed My Frankenstein, we take this poor photographer girl that just got a little too close to Alice, and we turn her into something from a nice sweet girl into Cold Ethel.
Knowing Cooper, we can all just imagine what that means. Despite potential ego problems between bands on any package tour, the Operation Rock and Roll bands say they're well beyond that.
Judas Priest and Alice Cooper have been around so long, and Motorhead, that they checked their egos about 10 years ago. You know, these guys are old pros, and they're not in here arguing and quibbling with each other. You know, this is just kind of like everybody has a mutual respect.
San Francisco, thank you. Good night.
Welcome back to the Headbangers Ball. We're backstage for the Operation Rock and Roll show, and right now with Rob and Glenn from Judas Priest. So how are things going? Last time we ran into you guys was when we were in Rio. Rock and Rio. So how are things going so far on this tour?
Great. This tour is a blast, you know. If you want to come and see some primo metal, some primo hard rock, you got to check out Operation Rock and Roll. It's humongous. It's a fantastic day of metal mania at its finest, so come along and see us. It's a killer.
One of the things that really surprised me was, I mean, obviously being an Alice fan for so long and being a big Judas Priest fan for so long, and both you guys living in Arizona, other than this show, you guys didn't even know each other.
No, he lives about a mile away from me, and the first time we really met was when we did this thing going up Sunset Boulevard in a tank in Los Angeles a few weeks ago to promote this Operation Rock and Roll. But since then we've become, you know, talking friends, and I'm sure we'll be seeing each other a lot in the future, you know.
Now, how do you like playing on a tour as like a co-headliner?
It's good, Ricky. I mean, we find that this bill's really interesting. You know, you got like both the extremes of the spectrum of metal, if you like. You know, Alice has been, I mean, you know, he's been a guy that we've respected and admired for many years, you know, since I was just this big.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, yes. But it's great now because, I mean, you know, you've got like a Metal Church, and then you got Motorhead, so you got Alice, you got us, you got, you know, and I better not miss Dangerous Toys as well. But so you got a real good selection of metal out there, and they're all good lads. Everybody's getting on, and it's just makes for a great atmosphere.
We'll be back talking to these guys as the Headbangers Ball continues backstage at Operation Rock and Roll at the Shoreline Amphitheater right by San Francisco, California. So stick around.
Open forever. Open forever.
Clawing at the windows, come to me, it calls. Atmosphere's electric as it now descends the stairs. Hiding in the darkness is so futile from its glare. Yeah.
Back on the Headbangers Ball with Rob and Glenn from Judas Priest. It's at the Operation Rock and Roll show. We're kind of backstage. You guys are going to be going on soon. And is this going to definitely be a Judas Priest show?
Oh yeah, I mean, without doubt, you know, I think that the band has said more than once that we've got this reputation that precedes us wherever we go, and if you want to see some of the best metal in the world on stage, then you're going to get it from Priest. And it's a blast. This tour that we do in Operation Rock and Roll has enabled us to bring back some of the great Priest classics we haven't played for a while, like Heads Are Gonna Roll and Heading Out to the Highway, Turbo Lover. So it's a real good cross section of Priest stuff, and the bike and the bombs and the leather and the chains and the whips, all good, you know, mom and pop stuff. You know what I'm talking about.
So it's not like because so many bands are on this tour that you've had to tone down a little bit. I mean, it's definitely 100% Judas Priest show.
Never tone down for nobody, you know. We've got this thing, Priest is what you see and Priest is what you get, and that's the end of the story, man.
Right on. Well, now let's play what's definitely going to be one of the future Judas Priest classics. Here's Painkiller. Ricky Rackman here, back at the Operation Rock and Roll concert backstage at the Shoreline Amphitheater by San Francisco, California. As Glenn pointed out, this is the same place that
Julio
Iglesias played.
He's on the wall. Can we on the wall there? Julio. He's a big friend of ours, believe it or not. We've been in many recording studios with Julio. I don't know what he calls Rob. He calls him the Vicar of Hell.
He calls me the Minister of Metal. We did an album down in Miami. I think we were mixing the live album, and Julio was in there doing 5 albums. He records in 5 different languages when he makes a record. But he came up to me and he said, I cannot believe it is you. You are different, you know. When I see you on stage, you have the flames and the hell. You are the Minister of Metal.
Seriously?
That's who calls me the Minister of Metal.
He lent me some of his girlfriends, but he wouldn't really. He got 4 or 5 on his arms walking around. You wouldn't give me any.
See, I just mentioned the photo. I never thought I would get a story about how you guys met Julio Iglesias.
You wouldn't believe the people we've met. It's all rock and roll, one way or the other.
Now, what's going to happen after the Operation Rock and Roll tour?
We're going to lie down and have a rest. We've been doing it. When did we start this, Glenn? All this work?
Yeah, no. Well, the tour started in September, so we're going to finish in about another, 5 or 6 weeks. And then it's Operation Rest after that. Operation Rest.
Operation Rest for a little bit, and then...
A little bit. Then we're going to start working on new material, get back in the studio, hopefully early sometime next year, make another Priest masterpiece, and be back on the road sometime in the not-too-distant future. We won't go away.
We won't lie down and die.
Good.
Yeah, stop with it. Good.
So we'll probably meet underneath at the gas lamp where the air is cold and damp.
Types of metal, and I think the combination of the two has given us a fairly unique and another special Judas Priest offering, you know.
What Painkiller offers is another imaginary fantasy figure from the band that created creatures like Hellion and Metallion on albums past.
Here we have a kind of mythical Robocop metal version of a creature that comes in and does his quest for good over evil. It's just simply another form of music that is a great outlet of expression and gives millions of people, particularly young people, a way of getting involved and enjoying music. It's going to be around for a long time.